Greetings, class of 2024 and your parents and families. I'm Nathan Hatch, the president of Wake Forest, and it is very good to be with all of you again. Thank you for joining us tonight. Last time we gathered, we outlined the plan, our way forward for the fall semester. Since then, you've received a lot of information and have been asked to make a lot of decisions. Making the transition to college is difficult in a typical year, but these unprecedented circumstances have exponentially compounded all of the change and complexity. Thank you for your patience and flexibility as we navigate these challenges together. Tonight, you will hear from several Wake Forest leaders on our progress towards opening in the fall. We will hear updates on the academic experience, on residence life and housing, on health and safety, and the student experience in the midst of a pandemic. But first, let me offer a few brief thoughts. Wake Forest exists to educate young people committed to pursuing their potential and passion in order to better our world. Our commitment to excellence in our academic work is unyielding, and we intentionally design our education in the context of an engaged, personal community. All the while, we are unwavering in our dedication to educating the whole person and upholding our commitment to pro humanitate, for the common good. We believe in intellect and character. In order to pursue this academic excellence in these uncommon times, we've invested significantly in our faculty members over the summer. They are working hard to convert their signature in-person class experiences to a variety of delivery modalities. They have been executing peer-to-peer planning around these modalities, and that is going exceedingly well. I'm grateful for the careful and thoughtful work that our faculty members have done to prepare for the upcoming semester, their tremendous commitment to quality teaching. Our ability to fulfill our purpose and deliver our educational mission this semester will be guided by this plan, our way forward. With the input of many on our campus, we've built a strong model and solid plans to prevent and respond to the virus. As you know, the success relies on the shared commitment of our community to the health of all. Even as we help students reach their personal goals and academic potential, our progress will depend on all individuals taking responsibility for the role that each of us has to play in the health of the entire community. As we developed the plan, our way forward, we also had the advantage of being guided by very competent public health experts, those on the Renolda campus, where undergraduates reside, and those in our medical school. Their continued insight and expertise is invaluable as we prepare to provide for the health of our community this semester. And I'm deeply grateful for their wisdom and knowledge as we move forward. We are confident in the strengths of the current plan and believe that we can execute those plans well. However, we continue to stay vigilant about shifting conditions. We have developed a full plan to adjust in a variety of ways so that we can keep our students and community healthy while successfully completing the semester. If circumstances should prompt us to move everything to remote learning, we will, although we certainly don't want to. And though we may have to adapt, we will continue to offer our trademark academic excellence. Of course, it is our hope that as a country, we can gain the upper hand in this battle against this virus, and that conditions will allow us to do more in-person work, both in the classroom and around campus. If there is anything we have learned in the past several months, it is the great need for flexibility. We have built flexibility into our plans, but we are living in the midst of evolving circumstances. So I ask that as we continue to navigate these waters, we all approach this semester with a flexible mindset and a ready ability to adapt to change as it may come. In the next few minutes, you will hear more details about starting your college career at Wake Forest. But let the most important fact that you hear tonight be that we are looking forward so much to having you as part of the Wake Forest family. We have been anticipating your arrival. We have been preparing to welcome you, and we are eagerly awaiting to see how you can contribute yourselves to enrich this academic community. Let me now turn our time over to Michelle Gillespie, the Dean of the College. Dean Gillespie.
Thank you, President Hatch. Hello, everyone. First, I want to welcome our incoming students. I am so excited. We're all so excited that you're joining the Wake Forest family. And we're eager to get to know you this fall as you begin your amazing academic journey with us. College will not only be a new beginning for you this fall, but for all of us as well, because we're implementing newly designed academic experiences with varying modalities to ensure you get a great learning experience, despite the constraints that COVID-19 has put on our classrooms, studios, offices, and labs. As President Hatch mentioned, our faculty have spent the summer working together within and across their academic disciplines to think through the best way to offer you great courses. Each has selected the modality they believe will give you the optimal learning experience. Our faculty have been incredibly deliberative about how best to teach their course content, including their choice of platforms and tools to ensure terrific learning and strong student-faculty relationships. Now, I'm sure you've heard a few things about these modalities already, but on the eve of first-year registration, I thought it would be good to explain a bit more about each before you sign up for classes tomorrow. Now, first and foremost, there are 4 of them: face-to-face, blended traditional, blended with online pathway, and online. Our face-to-face courses are our most traditional courses. These courses will all have regularly scheduled sessions occurring in person and on campus, with all students participating with the faculty together, the faculty member together. These classes will take place in classrooms that have been modified to accommodate all social distancing guidelines. Because of the space restrictions these measures require, the face-to-face offerings have been reserved for these courses, particular courses like labs and studios, for example, where they'll have vital in-person requirements. These face-to-face courses will comprise a little over 10% of our total class offerings for the fall. Face-to-face courses will not be the only courses that will gather together for in-person offerings. We have 2 additional modalities, blended traditional and blended with online pathway, that will also offer in-person portions of their classes too. Blended traditional classes will have a combination of in-person and online components, with the assumption that all students will be on campus for the in-person sessions. This could mean the class is divided into small cohorts, where each cohort attends in-person gatherings together on specific days, and other instruction is handled through online offerings that can be done in small study groups or individually. Then there's blended with online pathway courses. They will be offered with in-person components as well. The difference here is that none of the in-person portions are required, and the course can be taken entirely online if necessary. Let's say a student is not living in Winston-Salem this fall, or needs to switch to learning remotely for a period of time. Then these courses allow the student to still participate with their other classmates, even if those other classmates are on campus. I want you to know that our blended classes will be great. For example, an introductory online pathways biology course will include an ecology assignment that will require data handling and quantitative analysis of a massive Africa animal data set. It's called Snapshot Serengeti, and it has captured millions of animal images, especially those images of elephants and lions and wildebeest who dominate this ecosystem. Students will meet with their professor to discuss and develop their research projects, either in face-to-face meetings with their lab sections if they are here on campus, or in synchronous Zoom sessions if they are taking the course online from home. The course will conclude with an online mini conference where all the students share their findings. The blended traditional and blended with online pathway courses will make up about 40% of our academic courses this fall. So all our blended courses, which incorporate these in-person options, along with our fully face-to-face courses, will total just over 50% of our fall academic offerings. The remaining 50% of our courses will be offered online, where all content and learning activities will be offered with no in-class requirements, really to help de-densify our classrooms and accommodate faculty and student needs. This option will allow those students who are not living on campus to continue their Wake Forest education from their homes, either in the US or abroad. These online courses will be terrific too. Let me give you 2 examples to make my point. One award-winning math professor will be sending each of her students a care package. That package will contain knitting and sewing materials, and she will be teaching these students to knit and crochet so they can make and then better conceptualize the modeling of critical mathematical objects. Another professor will be teaching gender and world history online, and he's going to have his students working in groups on mini research projects to write chapters for a textbook. This will be exciting collaborative work that produces a scholarly project sensitive to contemporary student needs that are absent in this field. The bottom line here is that your faculty members have been working all summer to make sure what they offer you this fall is an extraordinary state-of-the-art education. They are participating in peer-to-peer learning communities to incorporate the best pedagogical practices for online learning and the best pedagogical practices that are our Wake Forest signature, without losing the personal connectedness and rigorous standards of our classrooms. We're doing this for 2 reasons. First, to ensure faculty teaching with any degree of online will be excellent at it. And second, to ensure if we need to pivot wholly online, and we hope we won't, all our faculty will be ready to offer an outstanding Wake Forest education, no matter what the modality. The proof is in the pudding, of course, but student evaluations from last month's wholly online summer session 1 offer strong evidence that we're getting it right. 91% of students polled after the conclusion of summer session 1 indicated their faculty members maintained a strong, engaged presence during all their online activities and discussions. 92% of our summer students felt that all their online assignments, activities, and exams contributed to their strong understanding of the course materials. Clearly, our faculty have already been deepening their expertise in applying virtual pedagogy. One professor who taught his first online interdisciplinary environmental science course this summer revised a contemplative nature photography assignment that had worked well in his face-to-face classes in the past. In the old version, each student individually submitted the completed assignment to the professor for his review, and that was that, the student and the professor. In the new online version, the professor compiled and presented all of the students' photographs in an online gallery, and the whole class reviewed them together. The students then selected breakout rooms based on different course concepts exhibited in the photos and had smaller, rich conversations with their peers. Both the students and the professor found the new and improved online format incredibly engaging. The professor even reports, to his surprise, that his students achieved measurably higher levels of learning, creative thinking, and critical application in this new virtual space. Now, some parents have asked us, what if my child gets COVID and can't attend class? What will happen? Won't they get far behind? Will they have to withdraw, or will faculty work with them to turn in things at a later time? While each situation is unique, we have always worked with students who have gotten ill to ensure that they can either catch up with their work or take it incomplete so they can finish it after the semester's end. If a student gets COVID, and we certainly don't want that to happen, but if that happens and the student cannot attend class, the Student Health Services would let the instructors and the Office of Academic Advising know, and everyone, let me repeat that, everyone will work with the student to see her through. Similar accommodations will be made for students who must quarantine because of COVID as well. So as you can see, your Wake Forest education will start with the same faculty commitment and preparation that previous students have had when they first started at Wake. You will have enhanced and flexible options while maintaining these high standards we set for ourselves here at Wake. I know many of you chose Wake for the personal and individual interactions with our faculty, and our commitment to that kind of engagement remains embedded in every decision we make in the college. No matter the modality of your courses, your faculty members want to, and more importantly, will get to know you and your interests. They will be using email. They will be using in-person meetings. They will be using Zoom office hours. They will be texting you. They will be using all kinds of other exciting ways to develop these strong relationships with you. So be prepared to take a walk with a faculty member around the quad or meet for coffee with your faculty member, your class cohort at tables outside the pit. Plan for Zoom study sessions with others in your class, or sign up with a small group for a shared space in our academic buildings. Above all, we do not want you to feel isolated or stay in your dorm room. You will be plugged into your Wake Forest family in multiple ways as soon as you arrive in August. Our campus is beautiful, especially in the fall, and with social distancing measures in place, you can explore our campus with your new friends, just as previous first years have always done. Now, I want to introduce you to Assistant Vice President of Campus Life and Dean of Residence Life and Housing, Matt Clifford, who will talk about residence life and housing.
Thank you, Dean Gillespie. I want to say for myself that I've been tremendously impressed with the creative approaches to teaching that our faculty are using for the upcoming semester. The deep commitment to teaching is distinctive to Wake Forest, and it is on full display through the faculty's consideration of these teaching modalities. In addition to our investment in teaching, Wake Forest is also known for our residential experience, where students live and learn in a vibrant setting that is intellectually and socially engaging. We remain committed to that vision, although certainly we are navigating a different pathway this year. I'm certain that many of you have been eagerly anticipating your room and community assignment for many months. I'm certainly glad that some things haven't changed. Indeed, I expect that all of you have wondered and daydreamed about the professors who will awe and amaze you, the friends you will rely on, what you'd like to major in, and who will be on your freshman hall. Rest assured, the professors are amazing. Your peers will definitely lift you up, and you will always remember the students you shared your first days with at Wake Forest. As for your major, I've found that it usually finds you, so I wouldn't spend too much time worrying about that quite yet. We are still working diligently to refine our housing assignments for you and expect to release those in the coming days. As we've announced previously, we have worked closely with our public health experts to create a plan to reduce the number of people living in our residence halls and participating in activities on campus at any one time. We have carefully reviewed our residential offerings and have reduced occupancy where needed to promote the well-being of all community members. This fall, our communities will have more single rooms than usual, with approximately 65% single occupancy rooms and 35% double occupancy rooms overall. You, the class of 2024, will be housed primarily in buildings on the south part of our campus, as well as some buildings on the quad. Within the week, you will receive information from Residence Life and Housing that contains your room, your building, and roommate information if you are assigned to a double room. I know that many of you indicated a preference for a double room, and while we will not be able to accommodate all of those requests, I want to reassure you that reduced capacity in the residential community does not mean a diminished experience for you or for anyone. Living in a single room does not mean that you are isolated from others, but it will require closer attention by you and by our staff to engage socially in safe ways. Our resident advisors will arrive in a few weeks, where we will introduce a community engagement model designed to help them engage with you virtually and with in-person opportunities. Our RAs regularly work in communities that have both double and single rooms and are quite skilled at making sure all students are cared for in the residential environment. The residence halls will look different this year. In addition to reducing density at individual student bedrooms, we are also closely examining shared spaces. We take great pride in our buildings and know that relationships are formed and shaped through interactions in the hallway, lobbies, and even laundry rooms. Most of our signature common spaces will remain open, although you might notice less furniture inside, so we can reduce capacity and keep our community safe. All that's to say that is if you find yourself searching for a study space, you won't have to go too far. Move-in is right around the corner, believe it or not, and we are preparing mightily for your arrival to Winston-Salem. While the first few hours of move-in are typically moments of great fanfare, we will be rolling out a different sort of red carpet this year. As you know, our move-in process will take place over several days to reduce the number of people on campus and in the residence halls. Please pack knowing that you may only have 2 individuals accompany you when you are moving in. As you begin the orientation program after moving in, we are also working hard to make sure you have opportunities to engage with other Deben Deacons. A new initiative led by our Office of Student Engagement, dubbed Welcome to the Forest, will offer programs and events specifically designed to provide social opportunities outside of your orientation responsibilities and before classes begin. In addition to move-in, some of you may be asking questions about dining. Whether at the pit, the mag room, or North Dining Hall, we are committed to your health and well-being in our food offerings. Our dining services staff have created a robust plan for the fall to ensure safety at all locations. You will see increased cleaning at food stations, including high-touch areas and deep cleaning at the end of each day. We will heavily focus on hand hygiene for both students and staff with hand washing stations and increased signage. Seating has been reduced and repositioned at all locations to provide for appropriate physical distancing, and we have expanded dining locations, including outdoor tents and picnic tables to take advantage of the aforementioned beautiful scenery at Wake Forest. All stations in our on-campus restaurants will be served by an associate to allow for customization and safety. And if you don't want to dine in, we're now offering Grubhub ordering and pickup at all locations with increased grab-and-go options. Finally, meet Good Uncle, Wake's premier meal delivery app that provides nutritious, high-quality meals delivered to convenient spots on campus. You'll be able to pick up a chef-made meal and enjoy it in your room, gathering with friends under a shady tree on Davis Field, or elsewhere on campus. I hope you can see from these plans an innovative approach to customization, safety, and convenience by our wonderful dining services team. Despite these plans, some of you may still be evaluating whether you want to stay home and take classes online or come to Winston-Salem. I want to reassure you that you have the flexibility to make that decision, and it will not impact your eligibility to live on campus when you're ready. As I hope you can see, we are making plans with the intent to minimize major disruptions to the semester. However, certainly that's something we cannot guarantee. If conditions require the closure of campus, which we certainly hope that is not the case, refunds for housing, dining, wellness, and parking fees, if applicable, will be issued under a new university disruption refund policy. I know that it's hard to follow along with all of the changes that are coming this year, but please know that they have been made to keep you safe and retain the essence and the spirit of Wake Forest. Ours is a caring community, and the best way that you can show others that you care about their safety is by taking these precautions to heart. Wearing a cloth face covering, washing your hands, and keeping physical distancing are the little things that show Wake Forest we care so deeply about this place and its people. Soon you will receive your room and building assignment, the place where you will call home this year. A home is a place where you can find comfort, relaxing with friends after classes, or enjoying some much needed quiet time. A home is a place where you can develop deep and lasting relationships with fellow students, faculty, and staff from diverse backgrounds and experiences. Your home at Wake Forest will also be a place that will implore you to engage in a wide variety of socially and intellectually enriching opportunities. Living on campus will be different this fall, and we need your commitment to keeping everyone safe. Let's create home together. To hear more about how we are planning for your health and safety, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Penny Rue, our Vice President for Campus Life. Penny?
Thank you, Matt. You and your team have done amazing work to get ready to welcome our newest deacons. And I'm glad to talk to you all about our precautions and what we think Wake Forest will be like in the fall. First, let me share some public health information. North Carolina is in phase 2, with many things open, but requiring sound public health practices, like limited occupancy, strict cleaning protocols, and mask wearing. That means that restaurants and retail establishments are open with limited capacity. Parks and swimming pools are open and requiring lower density with mask compliance and social distancing. You should know that the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services provides a continually updated dashboard that you can always check at NCDHHS. As of today, Forsyth County has a case rate of 120 cases per 100,000 residents. We have ample space in our hospitals, and mask compliance is sound around Winston-Salem. Here on campus, our planning means that we have adequate personal protective equipment, staffing, and testing supplies. We have adequate personnel to perform contact tracing and acceptable housing density. We have sufficient housing for isolation and quarantine, and we have a system for daily health checks and exposure screenings. As you just heard, we have the ability to deliver coursework in person and remotely, and we have developed required training for every single person on campus about public health measures. The whole community, students, faculty, and staff, will take that online educational module to learn these best practices. We will also all be expected to participate with a daily wellness check called the Sneeze app. I've been doing it for several months now through our hospital. The Sneeze app uses illness data and symptoms reported by all of us. This real-time data allows us to see if any symptoms are trending and make decisions about how to respond before there's an outbreak. On a weekly basis, we will provide transparency to the whole community through a dashboard that will display the number of positive cases, the percent of positive tests, and the number of individuals recovered. Since we last met with you, we have decided to require all undergraduates to seek a COVID-19 test before coming to campus, using a local option or a mail-in test. We will provide guidance on the specific options shortly. For all students, we require that you quarantine at home for 2 weeks before coming to campus, not just our newest deacons, but everyone. You've all heard of asymptomatic spreaders, and this is the most prudent way to limit that possibility. We don't want to have to send you all home before Thanksgiving. Now, let me address how we're preparing on-campus students to return. We've done a terrific job in de-densifying campus, as Matt has said, making it easy for folks to comply with the 6-foot rule through strategic furniture removal and creative signage. Offices will be open and services will be available both in person and virtually based upon our students' locations and preferences. And we'll rotate staff to comply with social distancing guidelines. Student leaders have been hard at work developing a social compact that will ask students to abide by. They began with a strong commitment. What will it take to allow us to remain together on campus till Thanksgiving? Their effort is aspirational, the ways we want to be with and for each other. The most frequent question I hear is, will students be smart about their risks? Now, we will educate students carefully about how to avoid COVID-19 and provide a lot of positive reinforcement for making good choices. But those aspirations are also backed by a public health addendum to our code of conduct that spells out our specific expectations and whose violations could result in educational or restrictive sanctions. We all want everyone to stay healthy. Another group of students has led a creative process to reimagine how we can stay safe and still have fun. They've come up with great ideas, many reimagined for outdoor settings on our beautiful campus. Connecting first-year students to each other and to their upper class peers is a high priority, and we will be having several virtual involvement fairs rather than the typical one big one. RAs will help students make connections in the residence halls, and intramurals will happen that can be socially distanced. Student Union, the group that plans social programs all year long, is hard at work planning safe and fun events. There's going to be plenty to do. We envision Hearn Plaza as the living room of campus rather than just a pretty quad. We'll have Wake the Arts pop-up events, Zumba on the lawn, open mic nights, food truck Fridays, student-led cookouts, and a cappella concerts. When you first arrive, there'll be an outdoor scavenger hunt designed to unlock the secret beauty of Wake Forest. And ice cream socials will draw us together. And we're also prepared when things don't go well. Student health will have testing available on campus. So when someone tests positive for COVID-19, what will happen? Well, we'll immediately begin with contact tracing, identifying people they've been in contact with for more than 15 minutes in an unmasked setting. This summer, we've had 3 students test positive. All have recovered beautifully, and their contacts all quarantined. Students diagnosed with COVID-19 will be in what's called isolation. They'll have a daily phone call from our student health service nursing staff until they're released from isolation by one of our physicians. They will check on their symptoms and generally see how they're doing. They will be referred for a telehealth visit or potentially an in-clinic visit if their symptoms should worsen at all. Dining services will deliver food to the students' rooms on a knock and drop basis. They'll have an isolation kit that will include needed supplies such as a laundry bag, some personal hygiene supplies, cleaning supplies, and the like. Additionally, we'll notify the Office of Academic Advising of the student situation and that because of their symptoms, they may not be able to attend class until they resolve. If the student feels well enough, they'll get referral information to either a coach in the Office of Wellbeing or one of the Friends in the Forest staff advisors to discuss online activities to keep them engaged with campus life, such as Campus Rec's remote fitness options, the Office of Wellbeing's Thriving Remotely, community service offerings from Community and Civic Engagement to read books to local children, trivia contests, and other offerings from the Office of Student Engagement. Students will also be provided information on how to contact the chaplains or the counseling center staff if more support is needed. Since these students may not feel well, we'll encourage them to recover first before becoming engaged with other activities. Now, students who are exposed to COVID-19 but with no symptoms will be quarantined. It's pretty similar. They'll have a similar kit of supplies as described. They'll be monitored through the symptom check through the Sneeze app. And of course, they'll be told to call student health if they develop any symptoms. And if that happens, it would trigger a telehealth visit and of course, likely testing for COVID-19. Now, since these students for the most part will be feeling well, they should be able to fully participate in class remotely or follow up with their faculty members about missed work. In addition, we will also refer them to a coach in the Office of Wellbeing or one of the Friends in the Forest to guide them in maintaining their connections or making new ones. Especially with this group, we want to have a positive approach to helping them successfully complete their quarantine. The last thing we want to do is send you all home mid-semester, as we had to do last spring. But as President Hatch said, we are also prepared to pivot to an entirely online academic experience if needed, based on the rate of transmission and our ability to care for those who are sick. Now, let me introduce Dr. Sharice James, Associate Director of Orientation and Lower Division Programming, to tell you about orientation and to moderate our Q&A. Sharice?
Thank you, Dr. Rue. This summer has been nothing but eventful for all of us. Over the last few months, we've asked you to be flexible as we finalize our plans for your transition into our university community. As incoming students, I recognize that you've had an amplified sense of nervousness about transitioning into our university. Whether you'll be joining us on campus in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, or completing your studies fully online in your hometown, New Deek Week 101 is mandatory for both of our new and transfer students. It's important to us that you have a strong sense of incredible campus services and support available to you as a Wake Forest student. Your orientation experience, New Deek 101, will be completed via asynchronous sessions available through Canvas and taken in 3 parts. Module 1, New to the Forest. Module 2, Fall in the Forest. Module 3, Explore the Forest, for you to have the opportunity to explore our special interest opportunities. Students, I'll be sending you a message to your Wake Forest email about New Deek 101 with specific dates and details shortly after your registration week. One last comment about emails. Our office has worked incredibly hard to keep you informed. Thus, it's extremely important for you to check your Wake Forest email regularly. We do not use student personal email accounts. We want you to get accustomed to using the university's official mechanism for electronic communication. Additionally, I recognize that there have been a lot of questions about how you will be able to meet your classmates if you're completing your orientation online. Please know that campus partners are working to create a variety of opt-in experiences that will allow you to connect with classmates, whether in person or virtually, to allow students remaining at home to participate as well. Parents and families, I have an update for you. As we shared in our June town hall, we have transitioned our parents and families orientation to a completely online and pre-recorded experience. Our phenomenal campus partners have just wrapped up recording informational sessions for our fabulous parents and families. The recordings of these sessions will be made available soon. You will receive an email notifying you how to locate them on our website. We hope that you'll spend some time over the next few weeks to review these materials and have conversations with your student about the important topics covered. As we transition into the question and answer portion of this meeting, I want to assure you that we have sifted through the large number of questions that were submitted and selected the most frequently asked questions that were not already answered via tonight's remarks. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge that many of you have asked questions seeking very specific details about policies, procedures, such as exact cleaning procedures. We won't have time to get granular details about that tonight. However, I want to assure you that our team are working purposely in all of those areas. I imagine that other questions have come up as we began this conversation, and I will do my best to quickly pull those from the chat, and also want to acknowledge that we have phenomenal colleagues answering those chat questions as well. At the completion of this town hall, we will include a recording of the town hall sessions on ourwayforward.wfu.edu. So I will look to my colleagues as I transition and kick us off to our question and answers. We have already had a various number of students living on campus, attending courses and participating in labs or research projects. For each of your perspective, could you share any insight on what you've learned about the experiences of these students? I'm going to look to you, Dr. Clifford, if you could share a little bit about what has been learned.
Sure, thanks, James. I can say that we have learned that we have been able to keep students safe and maintain a community well, albeit on a smaller scale. Since March, we have kept students on campus who could not travel home, who faced housing or financial insecurities, or who otherwise qualified to live on campus. We've also welcomed some student athletes back. And again, we've been able to keep students safe and maintain a community well. Students also are doing really well to practice the safety measures we've put in place, such as wearing cloth-based coverings in the presence of others.
And Dean Gillespie,
Let me just add very quickly, students learn if they don't comply with mask wearing, they're subject to quarantine. And quarantine is really to be avoided. And so student mask compliance has been really high. As they watch one of their peers get quarantined, they realize they don't want it.
Perfect, thank you. And Dean Gillespie, you mentioned about sort of the surveying that occurred about the summer school experience. Would you like to add anything to that?
Well, I would love to say that our students had a really good experience through those classes, that we've used those surveys to help us make our fall classes even better and to shape the peer-to-peer learning communities that we're doing, really to roll in that information to use that knowledge to make our fall courses even more terrific. And we're excited about that. We are excited we were able to deliver really great online classes and this summer, and we know we can do the same and even better this fall.
Perfect, thank you. And Dean Clifford, when will first, you mentioned in a few weeks or shortly, but when will first year students be able to learn about their housing placements? And could you provide a little bit more detail on what move-in will look like for incoming students?
Sure, absolutely. As to the first year housing assignments, as I said, we're working really hard to finalize those assignments and do expect to deliver those to students within the week. Regarding the move-in process, we are creating a coordinated process to ensure that we both reduce density on our campus and also reduce density in the move-in process itself, which will be a centralized process. And the goal there is certainly, as it has always been, to keep everybody safe. So students will be able to sign up for a 2-hour appointment to move in and are, as I mentioned earlier, allowed to have 2 people to help them during that slot. And this allows us to reduce the number of people both on each individual floor and in the building at one time. We have had some practice with this method as our continuing students moved out this May and early June using a similar concept. So students should use that 2 hours wisely to move in before taking a stroll around campus. However, we do recognize that students and families may need to do some errands around town and to get needed supplies that they were not able to bring with them. So we ask that those visits are kept to a minimum and that families come to campus only if necessary and always with their students. And please remember, as you just pointed out, that both family and student orientation will be conducted online, and you certainly don't want to miss any of the sessions.
Perfect, thank you. And then Dr. Ryu, you mentioned about students kind of wanting to avoid the isolation experience. How will the university ensure that students accurately complete the self-screening?
Well, I wish I had my magic wand. So we're going to have to rely on what universities do best, which is educating our students about the importance of it. And we're going to have a really excellent online module, as I mentioned. I've taken it myself. It's really quite good. And then we're going to have to rely on the very good sense of our students to respond with candor. If there's been any known exposure for a student, these students will be followed very closely in terms of their symptoms. But it really is going to be important for the health of the whole community. And for, again, our commitment to staying open through Thanksgiving for students to provide candid answers for us.
Thank you. And then Dean Gillespie, I'm going to turn to you to talk a bit more about the academics experience. Our first year students, as you mentioned, will be starting their registration process tomorrow. Could you talk a little bit more about how many total recommended classes students should be taking, how many credits? And then on top of that, how will they be able to, or will they be able to meet their graduation expectation if they're fully online for the year, as an example?
Thanks, Cherise. Why don't I do that last question first? Because that's a straightforward one. Yes, every student should be able to complete the online classes that will add up for their graduation requirements if they remain at home. So we've asked every academic department to offer at least one section of a required course in an online format. And if a student were to find that she or he was struggling to get a particular expected course, they would be able to reach out to the Office of Academic Advising or their lower division advisor to get support to find those courses. So we will be able to support our students who are not able to come to campus. In terms of the number of classes and credits we're asking first years to take, it's a bit of we stretch basically from 14, 15, 16 credit hours. That's usually 4 courses in a lab or 5 courses. The students are going to have 2 rounds of registration. I'm a lower division advisor myself, so I love to tell my students to strategize a little bit about this. I urge them in the first round of registration, to go for those courses that are their top courses that they really want to get and really prioritize them. The second round lets students build out the rest of their schedule. It also oftentimes lets them find a course they might not have thought about the first time around that they're able to pursue. And we do 2 rounds of registration so we can create a more equitable process for everyone. So everyone can really get a couple of their top courses going forward.
Perfect, thank you. So Dr. Rue, being involved in clubs and organizations, it's traditionally a very helpful way for new students to make connections. Could you share any insight on what the student experience with clubs and organizations might look like for the upcoming academic year?
Let me unmute. Yeah, so our upper class students are dying to welcome our newest deacons to campus. They are so excited. They want to share what they love about Wake Forest, and they want to help you navigate to it as well. And this includes not only folks like RAs who are really there to provide that, but all of our student club and organization officers, our faith communities. And some of that's going to happen through pre-orientation programs. We understand about 400 of you have signed up for a pre-orientation program, which really does break the campus down into bite-sized pieces. And so that will help. That will get you to know some of those upper class leaders for sure. We'll also have smaller virtual involvement fairs, including for Greek letter organizations, academic organizations. We have so many student performing arts organizations. If you're not ready for prime time, but you still love to sing, or you still love to dance, we have so many groups that do that. And our studios we've had public health walkthroughs of all of our performance studios, so we know exactly how many people can be in them safely. So our upper class students are on it. They're pretty excited about it.
Perfect, thank you. As a former housing professional who has handled my fair share of roommate mediations, I know firsthand that not having a roommate is not a missed opportunity for friendship. Dean Clifford, could you highlight how your staff plans to bridge that transition gap in creating community for our newest students?
You are so right, Dr. James. We have many practices in place, such as roommate agreements, to help students live well with their roommate. And while you might think that everyone at college will be best friends with their very first roommate, our goal is that students really live well with each other, understanding and learning from someone else in the living environment. So our staff will remain committed to roommate agreements, even though many of you have requested specific roommates this year. And these agreements help students answer basic questions and enumerate expectations to their roommate. Additionally, our RAs, our resident advisors, will be working really hard to engage all students, whether they live in a double room or a single room, to create community outside their bedroom. And that will come through intentional conversations that RAs have, that will come through programming events, and that may come as well through passive opportunities that will happen in the resident halls. And finally, each community, I want to reiterate this as well, has a full-time live-in professional who will be guiding all of these efforts and remaining committed to our student social development and friendship.
Thank you. Dean Gillespie, you did such a great job of talking about strategy in class registration. If a class appears full for open spots, will there be open spots for incoming students to register?
It's going to depend. It's going to depend if that class is a face-to-face and a blended modality. That class may not be available. If that's the case, there will probably be an online section as well that the student could take. Now, what I would share is that we're watching those classes fill up all the time. And whenever we can, we open up another section so that we can make sure students get the classes that they need. The other thing students can do is go on the wait list. So that would be another strategy. If the class isn't available, a student should put her name on the wait list. And as students move in and out of classes, then automatically the first student on the wait list would drop into that class and get a notification that she is in. The third thing is a little trickier strategy, and that is to kind of move past saying, I need this class in this modality at this hour with this professor. If you can move away from that and look a little more broadly, either to either sections, to either times, or look at a course that is similar to or is another kind of requirement, there will be plenty of courses for everybody to find what they need for their requirements and for their interests.
Thank you. And then Dr. Rue, obviously one of the highlights of college experience is homecoming and a variety of events that are typically large scale. Could you talk to us about sort of plans or conversations that have happened about homecoming, family weekend?
Yeah, thank you. It's interesting. We ended out the school year with some experience about how to get creative with those big events. One of my favorite events that I know you like too is our Wake and Shake, which is our dance marathon that supports our cancer center. And students managed to raise $300,000 virtually. They had a 24-hour event. The last few hours of it were broadcast live, and we had participants from literally all around the globe. So I'm excited about our ability to reinvent things. Honestly, it may be a little while before we're able to have large in-person events, and that's going to depend upon public health guidance. So we know that you all will join us in doing what we can to flatten the curve and practice those good public health practices that will allow us to move into phase 3 in North Carolina, which will allow more in terms of in-person events.
Thank you. Dean Clifford, this series of questions is for you. I know that Dr. Rue has talked a lot about sort of the testing procedures that will happen on campus, potential for isolation, quarantine, etc. Could you talk a bit more about the impact to housing? So if a person tests positive in the same housing, or will they be able to remain in the same housing arrangements? Will their hall be sort of quarantined? Can you talk a little bit about that, the impact?
Absolutely, be happy to. So in regards to quarantine and isolation, and Dr. Rue explained, isolation is used, that's a term that we will use when a student has tested positive for COVID-19 or is diagnosed clinically. And we isolate that student from others in the community for a period until they recover. Now we're going to follow science and public health as it relates to quarantine measures. We have contact tracers at Wake Forest who are being trained to work with a student who tests positive for COVID-19 to determine their close contacts who may need to be quarantined. Now, not every student that might share a class or might live on a hall with a student is going to need to be quarantined. It's highly dependent, as you can imagine, on each individual and their living arrangements and patterns, and their living patterns and social patterns. So one of the goals of a lower density living environment is to reduce the magnitude of these close contacts. So it's hard to say, and to answer your question or series of questions with a specific answer, because in many ways it just depends. But we have very strong practices, again, testing and contact tracing and isolation and quarantine. Those three really do go hand in hand to help keep our community safe and to return students safely once they've recovered well back into the residential environment.
Thank you. So Dean Gillespie, I'm going to look to you for this question, and I will invite anyone else who would like to also respond. What might be the criteria for going online, and what would trigger that move if it happened as the semester begins?
Sure, thank you, Charisse. Well, Wake Forest is using, as you've heard tonight, a truly data-informed approach to make this decision. We're looking at multiple indicators to help guide our senior administrators in reaching a decision about when we would pivot to fully remote learning. So the metrics we are using are the metrics we've talked about tonight. The incidence of COVID in Forsyth County, North Carolina, and in the southeastern United States. We're looking at the number and percentage of positive COVID tests. We're looking at the number of people who have tested positive and who have recovered and therefore are no longer contagious. And we're looking at public health capacity. We're counting available beds at our hospital, the remaining isolation and quarantine spaces on campus, those kinds of things. We're looking at the availability of testing, and we're also looking at our supply of personal protective equipment as well. And so these are all the metrics that we've put into a dashboard. And it is this dashboard and those numbers that we're going to watch very, very carefully. In addition, we are going to have a dashboard that is available with the main indicators for not just senior leadership, but for everyone in the community, so that anyone can look each week and get an update on what's happening in our community in relationship to COVID. So that gives you some indication of how we will know if and when we have to pivot. And I invite my colleagues to give us some more context too.
Dean Gillespie said it perfectly.
Thank you. And then as a follow-up to that, Dean Gillespie, I'm going to look to you again. If that decision were made, could you talk to me about what would happen regarding tuition? What would that look like financially?
Sorry, I muted and unmuted. I apologize. We have worked into, and I think actually Dean Clifford could speak to this even better than I can, but we have worked, if we make that decision, we have set up a system in which we would be able to give a degree of reimbursement to our students. I know some parents have asked me, I've gotten this question a lot, and have asked me, well, wait a minute, Dean Gillespie, we understand the pivot and we understand the challenges of that, and that there could be a reimbursement there would be a reimbursement of some degree for room and board costs. But what about tuition? What would happen with tuition? Well, I would say to you, I would say the bottom line here is that my job as dean is to ensure our students receive a really exceptional education. And everything that we're doing in the college is to make sure no matter what happens, our students are going to get an extraordinary education. No matter what the modality is, our faculty are prepared to make a unique commitment here to make sure through the professional development work they've been doing this summer that our online courses, if we have to go wholly online and if our students have to go home, will indeed live up to our exceptional standards. I frankly know of no school in the country that has provided this level of support for faculty in preparation for COVID-19 challenges. And I know of no school in the country where faculty have been so eager to work and learn together to support student learning through COVID-19, regardless of the modality. So we certainly hope we don't have to pivot, and we have really developed our fall schedule so that we have these multiple modalities to help all of our students learn really, really well, whether they're on campus or they have to be home. But if we do have to pivot, we're ready to go, and it's going to be as great an education as Wake Forest has ever offered.
Thank you.
Dean, I will follow up on Dean Gillespie's remarks there. There is, as I referenced in my remarks, there is a university disruption refund policy, and that applies specifically to housing and dining charges, wellness and parking fees to students where applicable. And there's more information about the university disruption refund policy on the financial aid website.
Perfect, thank you. So as we transition to the closing of this discussion, I wanted to provide you all with an opportunity to say any last words that you might want to share.
Well, let me first say, I just can't wait to see you all. Normally, we would have greeted you on campus days in April and been so excited to hear your Wake Forest story, why you chose us. But now I just have to wait a few more weeks. So I'm so excited to welcome you very soon.
I want to echo VP Ruth's statements. I have to say, I've been in my office this summer and it's been really lonely. And I can't wait to see my students back. I can't wait to get to know each of you. I can't wait for you to tell me what it's been like this summer and what you've been hoping and dreaming about as you come to Wake Forest, and to tell me about your experiences. So I look forward to your arriving very, very much.
Typically, the summer at a university has a slower pace as people prepare for the new year, but I can assure you this summer, people have never worked harder as we reinvent so many processes to be able to deliver for students the kind of education that is our norm. So we greatly look forward to having you here, and we think we'll be fully prepared.
Dean Clifford?
Certainly, I would agree with everything that's been said thus far in terms of our excitement for your arrival. I again want to reiterate that that there's a lot that certainly that is being processed right now. A lot of changes and decisions that have come your way. However, I think what is the through line through those changes in terms of how we've approached this is to remain committed to the spirit of Wake Forest and to a vibrant and engaging and enriching campus. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how you will play a part in that.
Thank you. As we come to the end of the formal program, I would like to thank my esteemed panelists for taking time to share remarks and respond to our burning questions. Second, I'd like to give special thanks to my colleagues, Dr. Betsy Chapman and Dr. Zach Blackman, who have been avidly working behind the scenes to prepare for tonight's town hall. We've also managed tonight's chat. Finally, I would like to remind you that ourwayforward.wfu.edu will continue to be updated as we grapple with many of the lingering questions surrounding our return to Wake Forest in the fall. Please visit the site often and be on the lookout for further new student communications regarding dates and deadlines from me. Be well, and we look forward to seeing you on campus soon. Have a great night.